The bridal shower photos slid across my phone like a knife. 34 smiling faces, champagne flutes, and one glaring absence. Me. I counted them like a ritual. Cousins, aunts, great-aunt Judith with her walker. Everyone but me. That's the moment I stopped begging to be seen and started planning a celebration nobody could ignore. If you've ever been erased by people who should have loved you, hit like, subscribe, and stay with me. This one ends with a little poetic justice and a lot of redesigning life on my own terms. I remember where I was when the mug hit tile. It was the small sound, like porcelain sighing, but my eyes were on my phone and my thumb wouldn't stop scrolling. There was a backyard of sun and laughter in every photo. Fiona's backyard, draped in cream linens, coral and mint flowers, champagne being raised. I counted. 34 people. I counted again. The numbers never changed. My chest went cold in a way the spring light couldn't touch. I ran a hand through my hair and could feel the little tremor that had become familiar, the physical echo of being unseen. The memory of last Thanksgiving flashed like bad film, Aunt Marlene crowing over Fiona's promotion while everyone else clapped, and me mentioning my condo down payment, a 7-year grind, and hearing only polite nods before the room turned back to Fiona. The pattern had been there for years. My wins, my work, reduced to that little hobby, while Fiona's every milestone got a headline. I called my mother. She answered with that tone she reserves for sensitive conversations. Equal parts concern, equal parts judgment. There was a bridal shower yesterday, she said. Marlene thought it would be better without drama. Fiona deserves her day. Drama. The word landed like a verdict. It's remarkable what people can do when they decide a narrative fits. You are jealous, you are dramatic, you are the problem. When I called Aunt Marlene, she didn't apologize. You shouldn't be there, she told me like it was common sense. Some relationships are strained. The threat was casual, the kind that gets everyone in the family to step in line. Then the group text, good thing we didn't invite Ocean, less drama, and the careful deletion of messages that conspired against me. I took screenshots. I started documenting. I didn't know yet whether I was collecting evidence for confrontation or for protection, but something firm and cold clicked into place in my chest. I was being erased, and I would not go quietly. They call people like me sensitive. Maybe I once equated silence with peace. But silence can also be complicity. And the more I watched them decide my place for me, the colder my condo felt, the smaller at the holidays, the more clear it was. If they wanted an orderly family narrative, they could have it. I'd write my own. It would be fair to call that the turning point. Not the first insult, but the moment the family tried to spin a story where I chose to be absent. When an invitation never existed but everyone told a different version of why I wasn't there, you realize they're not just excluding you, they're poisoning the story about you. That's when I stopped waiting for a reversal and started building an alternate ending. My work, the little hobby, mattered. I had spent years building my design business, saving, obsessing over pixel spacing and palette choices. My condo wasn't inherited. It was earned. Losing clients after my family's whisper campaign was an ugly confirmation of how connected those social webs were. Barton Media dropped us. Westerly Home Goods folded talks. Money left. Sleep left. But what they couldn't take was my ability to create. That's where Isla came in. She didn't give me the "you're being dramatic" line. She brought Thai food and wedding magazines and called the whole thing what it was. Manipulative, controlling, gaslighting. They gaslight you, she said, and now they're surprised when you stop being small. Her words were a mirror I needed. So we planned. Not revenge like I was out to humiliate people. No petty sabotage. I decided to celebrate people who actually belonged in my life. I picked a date, a seaside villa, and I built invitations that reflected what I wanted from a ceremony. Authenticity, light, intention. Mateo, the villa owner in Santa Barbara with the easy laugh, became more than a storybook romance. He became a solid presence. Together we designed an intimate gathering for 18 people, every detail honest and handcrafted. The date. May 15th. It felt like a small thing, a date and a stack of hand-pressed invitations, but in that choice there was power. When Aunt Marlene called and discovered the date, she gasped and said the wedding had moved, a manipulation I hadn't known about. Suddenly I was told my little celebration conflicted with Fiona's real wedding. Change your date, she said, as if my life should pivot in order to avoid their discomfort. They wanted me to rearrange my joy to preserve an image. I didn't. That refusal was quieter than some people expect revenge to be, but it was satisfying in its own way. I didn't need to crash their wedding. I didn't need to humiliate anyone at a reception. I needed alignment between my values and my choices. I kept our date. Mateo handled logistics, Isla offered photography as a gift, Thomas curated wine, Gianna sourced flowers from the markets. The people who showed up proceeded from affection rather than obligation. But of course the family didn't let it go. My mother appeared, then Aunt Marlene, insinuating their compromise. Attend the evening reception only, or give up your own. They wielded guilt like a weapon. Grandmother's health, family unity, optics. They were playing their old game. I brought out the portfolio I'd spent years building. Watercolor layouts, sample invitations, mock-ups that were more than decoration. They were proof. These were designs that had paid for my life. They weren't theatrics. They were my livelihood. Watching the color drain from my mother's face when she realized they'd made a choice months ago felt like someone finally taking off blinders. For the first time, a crack opened in the family's tidy story. A cousin asked to come to my seaside ceremony instead of Fiona's. Other relatives started whispering that different versions of events were circulating. My exclusion didn't line up. When grandmother asked to hear my side, it signaled the beginning of unspooling. What followed wasn't a dramatic courtroom reveal. It was smaller and more human. After my ceremony, the one we poured our heart into, photos hit social, a blog picked it up, and then more. Authenticity caught fire. People loved that we had chosen intention over spectacle. My work, the quiet craft they'd called a hobby, began to be seen for what it was. Brands reached out. A magazine featured the wedding. Contracts arrived that matched the years of careful work I'd done. And the family? They knocked once more on the door, this time with Aunt Marlene and Fiona standing on my threshold. They wanted to know why I'd gone so public, why I'd turned what they believed to be their narrative into something visible and public. Was all this necessary? Marlene demanded. Fiona looked like someone who'd been coached to be offended. I told them something simple. This wasn't about you. It was about being honest in a way I never allowed myself to be. There was no dramatic hit. No gloating. Just quiet fact. They left. Fiona glanced back once. Maybe she felt something. Maybe she didn't. It didn't matter. The payoff, the revenge if that's the word you want, wasn't one of vindictive cruelty. It was of reclamation. When your absence becomes their story, the cleanest, most morally satisfying revenge is to live fully anyway. To build something so undeniably true to you that the performance of exclusion reveals itself as shallow. To turn the platform they tried to deny you into the place where your real life is celebrated. That's what happened. My design career tripled. Invitations came for speaking engagements. My work finally carried the weight it always deserved. There were awkward letters, Aunt Marlene asking me to decline a magazine feature out of respect. I put the letter in a drawer and mailed it out with a note. I am not competing. I am completing. That line felt like a kind of exhale. The projects kept coming. The people who mattered were present for my real celebration, not because they felt pressured, but because they wanted to be there. Looking back, the revenge arc had 3 parts. Clarity, creation, and consequence. Clarity. Seeing the pattern for what it was, exclusion dressed as concern. Creation. Building a life, a wedding, a business that aligned with my values. Consequence. The family's narrative lost coherence when it met public attention. Their performance couldn't hold. That consequence wasn't the goal. It was a natural result of choosing myself. People ask if I tried to mend things. I did in small ways. There were conversations, an attempt at explanation. But repair requires reciprocation. You can't force honesty from people who've already chosen a comfortable story over truth. Sometimes, the healthiest thing is to tend your own garden and let others make their choice. On my balcony that first night after planning began, a cardinal landed on the railing and watched me. It felt like a small omen. The bright red was ridiculous against the gray sky. The next weeks proved that the world outside the family's small theater had room for me. For my work and my joy. I built a ceremony that didn't need their approval. I built a life that did not hinge on being noticed by people who preferred a particular script.